Our presentation is creating a culture of patient safety. How did my mother get that skin tear? My name is Cathy Harley, and I'm the CEO of Nurses Specialized in Wound, Ostomy, and Continence Canada. And I'm speaking to you from the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe people in Ottawa, Ontario. Today, I have the pleasure to have a discussion with Richard Grynas, who's a retired pilot based in Edmonton, Alberta. He is a devoted husband and father and a son committed to the care and safety of his 99-year-old mother, who lives in a nursing home due to her care requirements. Richard has supported his mother with regular visits in order to ensure that she is warm, clean, fed, and toileted. Patient safety is a foundational discipline that's aimed at preventing and reducing risks, errors, and harm to patients to ensure high quality of care. I came to know about Richard and his mother in May of 2024 when I received a phone call from Richard after he searched for information on skin tears and came across the International Skin Tear Advisory Panel, also known as ISTAP, website. He was seeking information about skin tears due to a skin tear that his mother sustained while in the nursing home. Yet, none of the staff knew how it occurred. Richard was very concerned about his mother's safety since she is immobile, she's dependent on a wheelchair, and she is very, very vulnerable. He was also concerned that the nursing staff did not have the knowledge and skills to be able to manage the skin tear without further education and put effective strategies into place to keep it from happening in the future. And so, Richard, I'd like to welcome you to this presentation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, could we start by having you tell us a little bit about your mother? Who is she as a person and what is her background?
Well, my mother was born in Hungary in 1927, and her early years were spent in a small rural village in Hungary where she grew up under the care mostly of her grandparents. In the lead up to the beginning of the Second World War, things were stable in the country there. However, with the advent of the hostilities that began in 1939. It was a place that was at times almost on the front lines of battles that were ongoing. Mom had to leave with her family in 1945 in advance of the Russian advance into Hungary and ended up becoming a displaced person. After that, there were people in her family that had perished during the war. It was a difficult time for all families and people concerned. Fortunately, Mom had some relatives in Canada at that time, and they were able to sponsor her to immigrate to Canada. So she ended up coming to Edmonton, where other family were, and settled in Edmonton for essentially all of her life. It was in Edmonton that she met my father, who also had a similar wartime experience with his family. And they were married, I believe it was in 1951, and established a household in Edmonton, children. I have another sister, so there's the two of us. Mom was always a very motivated, competent, and independent individual, and she kept a very good house. In the picture, if you're viewing the picture from your left to right, my father Henry, who passed away in December of 2020. Next to him is my wife Teresa, and she's holding our beloved dog Edie. And next to my wife is our oldest daughter, Laura. We have one other daughter who lives in Germany, Janet. And to the left of Laura is my mother, Yolanda. So this photo is taken from Christmas time 2015. And I think it's a pretty representative picture of all of the people there, but particularly of my mom.
It sounds like she's a wonderful woman and was a wonderful mother. And so it as things progressed and as she was aging, Your mother ended up having to go to reside in a nursing home. What were the events that led up to that decision?
There had been evidence of subtle decline earlier on. However, when my father passed away, and we began to notice a much more significant decline in mom's cognitive capabilities. So she continued to live in their condo after dad's passing. And I guess it was probably the summertime, sometime in August of 2021, there was an incident with a cooking appliance that was pretty significant. Fortunately, nothing bad happened. It was caught before any damage was done, but that was a very real indicator to us that mom was experiencing cognitive decline that needed to be addressed. In November of 2021, we took her out of the condo. We moved her into our house. And it was in December of 2021 that a doctor from Alberta Health Services enacted her personal directive and her enduring power of attorney, naming me as agent for both, because in his opinion, mom was just not able to make decisions for herself anymore. So in the course of that year, 2021, there was a fairly accelerated and significant decline in mom's cognitive capability. She was living with us until March of 2022 when we all happened to get COVID, and it just got to the point where we could not look after mom in our home anymore, given her condition and the fact that we all had COVID to deal with too. So she ended up going into the Grey Nuns Hospital in Edmonton and was there for a couple months, not really having an idea of what was going to happen with her. But she eventually was assessed by a geriatric specialist in the Grey Nuns Hospital, and he suggested that she go to Villa Caritas, which is, I guess I'd properly call it, a psychiatric hospital facility in Edmonton. And she went there, was there for almost 2 months, presumably during that time being assessed for what her future living arrangements might be. And after about 2 months, they authorized her release to long-term care, after which we found her a placement at a long-term care facility not too far from her.
You and I came into contact May of 2024. Your mom had been living in long-term care up to that point. Can you explain the sequence of events that led you to reaching out to getting more information on how to manage skin tears?
Certainly. So it was the 1st of May, 2024. I went to mom's nursing home in the morning, and I generally am with mom breakfast time, lunchtime, and supper times to just assist with her care, but at meal times to ensure that she is fed because mom does need assistance with eating. And when I arrived there in the morning, I noticed a dressing on the right side of her cheek. So I asked what had happened, and I was told that, oh, she has a wound. And I took them at their word and just left it at that. I thought it was strange that I hadn't been contacted prior to seeing this wound, because the nursing home had been diligent in contacting me if anything happened to mom. So if she happened to take a tumble out of bed, I would receive a phone call, or if she was found to have a bruise someplace, if I hadn't seen it by attending to her, then they would let me know that this had happened to mom. So I was a bit surprised that I hadn't been contacted about this, but I saw the dressing on her cheek and seemed to be okay. So I just assumed whatever was underneath would be not anything too significant, and I just left it at that. And it was a couple days later that I was there, and they were changing the dressing on this particular wound. And when I saw what was underneath the dressing, I think it's an understatement to say that I was distressed by what I saw. And the photo that you have here is a photo of what this wound looked like when they removed that initial dressing. Now, as they were telling me about this, they described it as a skin tear. And I do have to say that prior to them telling me that this was a skin tear, I had no experience at all with a skin tear. When I looked at this particular wound, I thought that it was a cut. That is what I thought it was. And the describing it as a skin tear didn't really mean much to me, because I didn't have any experience or any knowledge of what a skin tear is and how they can happen. So after seeing this, I did do an internet search and happened to come across the Skin Tear Advisory site website, trying to find out some more information. And I guess perhaps maybe Cathy, for you, unfortunately, there was a telephone number there. And I thought the best opportunity for me to find out more about this is to speak with somebody that can give me information on it. And that is why I contacted you. And I can say that it was a very welcome thing that you did take the call, and it was very welcome to receive the information from you on just exactly what a skin tear is. And I know I traded photos with you, and we had some conversations and traded some emails, and it was very, very helpful to educate me on what a skin tear is. And I think it was your opinion that this most definitely is a skin tear. It's not a cut as I would have thought that it is. And it was something that was very useful for me in dealing with the fact that my mom did receive what I would describe as a fairly horrific skin tear, using the proper term.
And so one of the things we did was we used the ISTAP decision algorithm, which does help to guide in assessing and classifying skin tears. And it was determined that your mother did have a type 3 total flap loss skin tear on her face. What was the reaction of the long-term care staff when you asked them how your mom got the skin tear on her face? How did they react?
Well, quite naturally, one of the first questions I put to them was what happened? And I was concerned, not that, in my opinion, that there was anything deliberate or malicious that took place here, but what actually happened that would cause a wound like that to my mother, and how can something like this be avoided so that an injury like this does not happen again? And I did go to management at the nursing home. There was letters exchanged, and there were meetings that took place. And I can say that in my opinion, there was never an explanation given to me about what happened. And I'm just going to refer quickly here to a letter that I received in response. I'll just read quickly one paragraph. I hope this letter finds you well. I'm following up on our recent meeting on May 15th, where we discussed the skin tear your mother received and how to address the issue going forward. As discussed at that meeting, we have concluded our investigation, but cannot determine the cause of the skin tear. So that was their final word on it, that they could not determine what happened. But it has left me with a feeling that perhaps maybe not all of the information has been gathered. I did take a picture of Mom's clothing, and I did examine her clothing very carefully after this had happened. And I did take a picture of a kind of a fleecy jacket that Mom was wearing that evening that has a collar to it that you will see has a small smear of blood on it. That was all the blood that I could find on her clothing. And yet when I looked at the wound after the dressing was taken off a couple days after I first saw it, it seemed to me as though there was an awful lot of dried blood on the wound. And I would have expected, and this would be a determination for perhaps somebody more qualified than me to make, but in my estimation, I would have thought that there would have been much more bleeding that would have happened had a wound like this have occurred without anybody present. So my takeaway from this is that when the wound did happen, I'm thinking that there was probably somebody there, because they were able to stop the bleeding from getting all over her clothing, which I would have expected would have happened. And we're just left with an article of clothing with just this thin smear of blood on it.
So, did you feel confident that appropriate measures were being taken to manage the skin tear on your mother's face?
Well, there was a dressing put on, and there I also did send you a photo of subsequent dressings that were put on. The subsequent dressings were a little bit different than the initial dressing that was put on. And I know during the conversation that we had, Cathy, you did talk about silicone-based dressings as being the most appropriate ones. Did ask nursing staff at the home after we had spoken if these are silicone dressings, and I don't know as I got an answer from them saying that they specifically use silicone dressings, or that they appreciated the fact, based on the information that you gave me, that the best dressing to put on a wound like this is a silicone-based one. Now, the photo that we're looking at here, this is one of the subsequent dressings that was put on, and I believe it has a brand name on it of Comfeel Plus. And I don't know if that was a silicone dressing or not.
Now, the other area I know you had a concern about was the wound cleansing and the fact that there was not a gentle technique used when the wound was being cleansed. And I do have a video here that shows how the wound was being cleansed on your mother's skin tear.
And again, it was very helpful, very informative to have the conversation on the telephone that I did have with you, Catherine, about aspects of dealing with skin tear. And I know one of the things that we discussed was how the skin tear area should be cleansed. And I remember you mentioning that it needs to be very gentle, and probably the best method for cleaning a skin tear area is irrigation. So when the initial dressing was first removed, one of the nurses at the facility where Mom was at proceeded to clean the skin tear wound, and I decided to take a video. And I did notice that the technique that was employed was, perhaps I could use the word, more physical than just irrigating the area to clean it off. And this is what you're seeing in the video here.
There are gentle cleansing techniques that can be used on fragile skin in the vulnerable population. And so I think that's one thing we encourage clinicians to do, is to seek out appropriate gentle cleansing techniques for people who have very fragile skin and who have experienced skin tears. When you and I spoke on the phone concerning your mother's skin tear, I had offered to connect you with local nurses specialized in wound ostomy and continence to provide skin tear assessment and classification information for the nursing home staff. And I also offered to see about setting up an in-service education program for the staff on skin tear prevention and management. What was the reaction of the nursing home staff when you offered to do this for them?
I did have a conversation about this with the director of care at the time, and based on the conversation that we had, I suggested that perhaps it might be worthwhile for the staff in dealing with skin tears to avail themselves of a resource such as the Skin Tear Advisory Panel. Because I did mention that I had spoken with you. I did mention the organization's name and said that there was an offer made by yourself. Should the facility wish to have any contact with them, that you would be amenable to participating in that contact. And I would characterize the response as being somewhat dismissive. I think there was some comment made that we can take care of this ourselves, and so I did not wish to press the issue.
Do stay up to date on the most recent and current techniques that are used for skin tear cleansing, skin tear management, and preventative strategies. And the International Skin Tear Advisory Panel on their website, skintears.org, provides a lot of information on how to do exactly that, prevent and manage skin tears. There's also quite a bit of information around current research that has been done in the field as well in order to support evidence-based practice. In July of 2024, I received another email from you with an update on your mother. You said Mom is doing okay. Inexplicably, her appetite has returned and she's put on 20 pounds in the last 2 months. But she received another skin tear, about 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter, on the back of her left hand the other day. A licensed practical nurse tried to push a med cart between Mom's wheelchair and another lady in a wheelchair sitting close by her.
My mother, during the course of any particular day, might be in a very calm, sedate mood that can change very quickly to an extremely agitated mood where she can be very, very difficult to deal with. And I I don't see her 24/7. I do try to be with her as much as I can, but for those people that have to deal with folks like my mother in their difficult states, it can be a very hard thing to do. And sometimes these people will just be in places, be doing things that you would not expect them to, and can certainly catch you out of the blue. Now, in this particular instance, where my mom's hand was caught between her wheelchair and a med cart, um, yes, in retrospect, trying to give people in that kind of situation a wider berth would be a better thing to do. However, sometimes you need the benefit of eyes on the back of your head to know exactly what's going on. So it's difficult to say that they were or were not doing everything possible to protect my mother. What that has taught me is that, and I don't think I appreciated this before, is how extremely fragile the skin of an elderly person can be. Um, this is something that has been a revelation to me, how quickly things can change in a person's physiology, that you can have a skin condition where the slightest touch, the most innocuous handling of somebody can result in an injury.
What did it mean to you to have an organization to reach out to, like the International Skin Tear Advisory Panel?
Well, it was, again, I don't think I can stress enough that having the ability to speak with somebody directly, not via a lot of messaging or other forms of contact like that, but to actually talk to a person and have them listen to me, describe what has happened to my mother, be willing to look at a photograph of what happened, and then give me what I consider to be a professional assessment of what happened, and um, to take the advice that I was given and pass that along to the people caring for my mother. I can say that having this wound on my mother's face described to me, explained to me as a skin tear by yourself was comforting.
Here's a picture of your mother, Yolanda, on her 99th birthday, which was
Yes.
taken March 2nd, 2026. She has a really nice smile on her face. As a son, you have provided her with caring and with protective oversight. And I know based on our discussions, you've done everything you can to keep her safe and protected in the long-term care setting. And so, Richard, we'd like to thank you for being a part of the conversation on the importance of preventing and managing skin tears, particularly in the area of the elderly population who experience fragile skin and reduced mobility and many other issues that are particular to this patient population. I commend you on your effort to create a culture of safety for your mother, and I do hope that she will be protected and safe moving forward. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, Kathy. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. And again, not to overemphasize it, I don't think I can overemphasize this. I very much appreciate the assistance that you have given me through your organization in helping me to deal with these issues that have come up with my mother. Thank you.